Welcome to everyone. This is Baburao Kunchala. Today I would like to discuss about a ground view of the Indian Space Policy 2023. Indian Space Policy 2023 released by Government of India. So now I would like to discuss about the ground view of this policy 2023. Recently in news, Indian Space Policy 2023 recently in news. Why in news? And second, I would like to discuss here background of Indian Space Policy 2023, history of space policies, and Indian Space Policy 2023, and the gaps between what are the gaps are there in Indian Space Policy 2023. This is what we are going to discuss today current affairs. So now why in news? On April 20th this year, the Indian Space Research Organization ISRO actually released the Indian Space Policy 2023, and it had been in the works for some years, and already this document has been received positively by the industry. So right, that's why in news. So now here, what was the background of this Indian Space Policy? This is also important. So until the early 1990s, Indian space industry and space economy were defined by ISRO. Private sector involvement was limited to building to ISRO designs and specifications. The role of the private tech sector was limited. And the second space age being with the licensing of private TV channels, the explosive growth of the internet and explosive mobile telephones, and the emergence of the smartphones. That is the second space age began. And today, while ISRO budget is approximately 1.6 billion US dollars, and India's space economy is over 9.6 billion dollars, and is estimated to grow to 60 billion dollars by 2030. Directly creating more than 2 lakhs jobs. Right? The history of space policies. The first one here, the first satellite communication policy was introduced in 1997 with the guidelines for foreign direct investment in the satellite industry that were further liberalized but never generated much enthusiasm. And a remote sensing data policy was introduced in 2001, which was amended in 2011, in 2016, and was replaced by a national geospatial policy that has been further liberalized in 2022. And yet, Indian users, including the security and defense agencies, spend nearly $1 billion annually to procure Earth observation data and imagery from the foreign sources. That's what. And Indian Space Policy 2023. What is Indian Space Policy 2023 and main provisions in this policy? So, the vision is to enable, encourage, and develop a flourishing commercial presence in space that suggests an acceptance that the private sector is a critical stakeholder in the entire value chain of the space economy. It makes 5 key points, such as a first one, this is the only reference to security in the document, making it clear that the focus is on civilian and peaceful applications. And second one, the second policy, the policy lays out a strategy and then spells out the roles of the Department of Space, ISRO, the Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center in Space, set up in 2020, and the New Space India Limited, NSIL, a public sector unit set up in 2019 under the Department of Space as the commercialization of ISRO to replace the now defunct Anthrax. So now here, a third one. It states that ISRO will transition out of the existing practice of being present in the manufacturing of operational space system and shall focus on R&D in advanced technology that proving new system and relation of space objects for meeting national and prerogatives. Then here fourth one, the NGEs, that it means non-governmental entities, which includes the private sector, are allowed to undertake end-to-end activities in the space sector through establishment and operation of space objects and ground-based assets and related services such as communication, remote sensing, navigation, etc. Finally, in space is expected to create a stable and predictable regulatory framework that will ensure a level playing field for the NGEs. It will act as a promoter by setting up industry clusters and as the regulator issuing guidelines in liability issues. That's what. And what are the gaps in the space policy? The policy set out an ambitious role in space, but it provides no time frame for the necessary steps ahead. Neither is there an indicative timeline for ISRO's transitioning out of its current practice, nor is there a schedule for in space to create the regulatory framework. So these are the main problems, and the policy framework envisaged will need clear rules and regulations pertaining to FDI and licensing government procurement to sustain the new space startups and new space startups liability in case of violations and appellate framework for dispute settlements. Now here a regulatory body needs legislative authority. In space is expected to authorize space activities for all, both government and non-government entities. Currently, its position is ambiguous as it functions under the purview of the Department of Space. So, finally, the way forward and the Space Policy 2023 is a forward-looking document reflecting good intentions and a vision. But it is not enough. What is urgently needed is a time frame to provide the necessary legal framework to translate this vision into reality, to successfully launch India into the second space age. That's what required. Thank you. Thank you so much.